Ohayo gozaimasu, bichas. Welcome back. Like and subscribe. We got another reaction video to Legendary Drops. This game completely broke them. Looks like we're talking about some Stellar Blade action. Let's get into it.
So good. Over a year after its original release, Stellar Blade drops onto PC and within a matter of days sells over 1 million units, still selling right now. And media outlets aren't really too sure what to think about it. You got a few of them that are fumbling around trying to pretend like they've liked it all along, a couple other ones that are trying to shame you for enjoying it, and then of course you got a couple of others that are saying that the game is only popular because of Asians, because they don't count or something. Why are you guys like this? The truth
Damn.
is, Stellar Blade was never the right kind of game in their eyes. It wasn't made for the right reasons or how they want games to be made or what they want games to do.
Well, they're mad because it doesn't follow the agenda. The make boring, ugly characters agenda that we have slowly been getting away from and stamping out because it's even happening in other mediums as well. Because I noticed that the more risky shows in the anime side of medium are starting to come back. We have more risky TV shows and movies that are starting to get more consideration. Um, so the culture shift is happening. It is happening slowly. It is not happening at the speed that I wish it would have happened, but we are getting back to a normal state of being where people can enjoy fantasy like depictions of attractive people. It's a no brainer. It's a no brainer.
And that's a problem because when the media doesn't like who the game is made for, well, then they got to find any way to be able to diminish its success through
Yep.
subtext or whatever means that they can use. But this game is much more important than a lot of people give it credit for because it's exposed a double standard. It pushed Sony to get rid of region locking, delivered one of the cleanest PC ports that we.
That is true. Sony's region locking is absurd. I mean, it's ridiculous. Honestly, should be illegal on a global scale. Like, there should be like a global fucking laws in place for stuff like region block, region locking, blah blah blah. Because like I don't know. I just don't get it personally, right? Like, so I find it kind of annoying when there's a show or something that I want to watch on, say, Netflix or Crunchyroll or whatever, and or Amazon Prime, and I have to use a VPN in order to access it, or just not watch it, or not be a part of it. I find it incredibly fucking annoying that there can be specific region locks on things. I was looking to purchase Trinity 7. If you guys don't know what that is, uh, it's such a good fucking anime. It's completely gooner bait. I'm gonna be 100% honest. It's such a gooner show, but it was back in a time when you could actually have a halfway decent plot and the Goon Gagoon at the same time. Like Dan Dan's kind of doing the same thing right now, which I'm highly praising Dan Dan for. And I find it incredibly annoying that I can't get Trinity 7 because it is specifically locked to other fucking regions that are outside of the US. So pretty much anywhere in like a western country you cannot get a physical copy of Trinity 7. That's the most retarded fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Second most retarded thing to splitting seasons up and putting them on different platforms. Fuck you if you're doing that right now, by the way.
Have seen in years, and it sparks a discussion that goes far beyond thick thighs and camera angles. I've played
Unless it's anime, because it's plot furthering content.
Stellar Blade. I really enjoy it. And while I've been playing it, it's not perfect. It really shows just how hard people have tried to misrepresent it. And that's incredibly frustrating. So today what I want to do is I want to break down the game itself. I want to talk about the backlash that it faced and what this really says about the industry.
W Iron Maiden T-shirt, by the way.
Because it's not that Stellar Blade did anything
Completely
wrong,
off
it
topic.
didn't break any rules, it just exposed the truth.
True.
Stellar Blade was always a bit of a curiosity. Even before its launch, it had this slick looking, high end visuals, stylish combat, and eye catching protagonist, and it stood out as a rare console release, AAA console release from Shift Up, the Korean studio behind Goddess of Victory Nikke, a wildly successful gacha game. And this is something that we've been seeing
I just saw an ad about that earlier.
more of lately, more studios that are making a fortune off of mobile or gacha games that are using that money to fund real full-scale releases, not another monetization funnel, actual games. Cygames did it
True.
recently with Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which then sold over 1 million copies, and
They just released a new game that's out for them is Pretty Derby, and it is a gotcha game, but it is so incredibly fucking good. Oh, oh, I'm 100% because like my rule with gotcha games, right? If the gotcha game is good, I will spend up to the amount of money that I would pay in store to essentially buy the physical copy, like I were to buy an Elden Ring, or I were to buy Black Myth Wukong, or Astro Bot. I would spend the 60, 70, $80 up to 100 total dollars on that gotcha game. That is my contribution to the game as a sort of praise for its success. Okay. The only two games, and this is how strict I am with gotcha games. The only two games that I have so far spent money on in general at all are Wuthering Waves and, well, I spent a little bit of money. Now I'm thinking about it, I spent a little bit of money on Zenless Zone Zero. Not much, mind you. I spent like fucking $20 because I wanted to pull for Caesar. After I got Caesar, I was like, I'm chilling, I'm good. Um, and then Pretty Derby. Pretty Derby. Obviously, I spent money on Pretty Derby. Such a good game. Probably gonna spend more money on Pretty Derby. To be honest, I enjoy it. I enjoy having kind of this RNG slash battle with myself and learning the game so far. I find the game to be very enjoyable. I have it on both Steam and mobile. So side games are fucking killing it. And I actually started the anime as well. And the anime is actually fucking pretty good. It's pretty good. I could definitely see why it is as popular as it is. Because I've been seeing a lot of people play it. Um y'all have to let me know down in the comments if Tectone has played this game, because he is the gotcha guy when it comes to this type of stuff. So I'm curious if he's played it. I haven't seen any VODs, so maybe he's played it and he just hadn't uploaded a VOD anywhere. So I don't know. Y'all let me know.
under 2 weeks. Stellar Blade then followed, hitting 1 million units that were sold in just a month after the game's launch, while it was still exclusive to PlayStation 5. But then came the PC version. A year after the release, Stellar Blade dropped on Steam and it immediately became one of the top sellers. It broke over 90,000 concurrent players in a matter of hours and then passed 180,000 players at peak
True.
hours, then climbing up towards 200,000 by the end of the week. Sony later confirmed that it was the fastest selling PlayStation title in Steam history, moving 19 times faster than any of their other ports. That one release more than tripled its lifetime sales, pushing it towards 3 million copies sold, and it's still rising. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I did not see that coming, and that is partly on me because I read a lot of reviews, not because I necessarily trust all of them, but because I just want to get a temperature check. Is the game fun? Does it run well? What's the combat like? But with
I think that's probably the reason that people overlook a lot of things, to be honest. Getting into that review mindset can absolutely sap any sort of like any sort of like ambition towards a sort of medium, whether it's a TV show, a video game, whatever it is. Once you get heavy into the reviews, a restaurant, another perfect example. Um, because as much as people like to try to remain objective, the more reviews you read, the more subjective you're going to become. So you'll go into something with, instead of an objective mindset, a skewed mindset toward either one direction. You're either going to go into it having your doubts, or you're going to go into it with your hopes up. Both of those can lead to improper analysis, and it's almost impossible to remain objective once you have dived that far.
Stellar Blade, even though most outlets gave it a solid review score, it was an 80 on OpenCritic at the time, I didn't realize just how much of that coverage was drenched in subtext. The reviews weren't about how the game
Yeah.
played, they framed it as a knockoff, a Diet Near Automata, a game that you should feel embarrassed to enjoy, not because it actually
Yeah, I mean, like, how can you look at this? How can you look at this and not think this game looks incredible? Like, just this alone looks incredible.
deserved that, but because that's how they wanted it to be seen. I'd only realized what was happening after two things. One, I actually played the game, which we'll go into later. And two,
True.
Shift Up quietly did something incredible and nobody gave them credit for it. Now, you guys might have missed this because a lot of people did, but Shift Up actually approached Sony to lift the region locks that had blocked Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and a bunch of other games from being sold in over 180 countries. Now, this was not a soft ask. It ended up leading to a full policy reversal, one of the biggest moves that Sony has made in years. And what happened? Silence. IGN covered the ongoing discussions that they had originally.
Well, Sony's in a situation where they don't have a choice but to kind of open their doors essentially, because if they don't, in the end, Xbox is going to take over. Whether you like to admit it or not, everybody knows Xbox is currently culling its staff down, making everything incredibly efficient because they have a 10-year plan and they are setting it in motion. And if Sony doesn't act, Sony's going to get left behind. Because the only giant that Xbox is even considering having to take on is Nintendo. But Nintendo is kind of killing itself. So, like, Xbox doesn't really have to worry about them either. They're kind of taking themselves out of the race with all the terrible fucking moves they've been making lately. Um, so I guess I'm curious where they're gonna go with it, because I'm wondering, like, in my head, like, how is PlayStation gonna stay relevant 10 years from now when you have an Xbox that has insane, like, cloud gaming technology, who have pushed themselves and their own ambitions forward, because they've been laying the groundwork for this shit for years. And they're finally starting to make their move and act on these ambitions. So I'm curious if Sony is going to be able to adapt, considering how different the cultures are.
Had, but once it actually went through, no follow up, no articles, no credit, not to Stellar Blade, not to Shift Up. And this is one game. This one game helped make PlayStation games globally available again. Apparently, that wasn't worth reporting on. And the minute that happened, it brought everything back into focus. How targeted this game has been since the very beginning. I mean, before its launch, IGN France had published an article, a hit piece more than anything else, calling Eve a doll that was made by somebody that's never seen a woman. Later, they would end up having to walk that back because turns out the director of the game is married, his wife is an artist that works at Shift Up, and Eve was modeled after a real Korean actress.
Yeah, so this is why, like, I don't understand giving IGN or any sort of critic review any sort of grounds for anything. Honestly, like, just don't go to their websites, don't click on their stupid posts, don't interact with them whatsoever. It's about time we just stop pretending that critics exist and their opinions matter, and we just move on without them. Move on without them. We can use that budget for actual journalists who have actual things to report, who actually play the things that they're reporting on. So why are we giving them the time of day? Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Are there some good ones? Sure, sure there is, but they're in an industry full of slop. So it's about time we pull an Xbox and we start cutting staff. We start getting rid of all these micromanaging idiots who don't know anything about the stuff that they're reporting on. They just want to push some stupid agenda because it makes them feel better and know with the world.
Then after that came articles like how Stellar Blade became 2024's most controversial game. I thought that was Black Myth Wukong or a couple
That's
of other
fucking
games now
crazy.
that I think about it. Stellar Blade's design isn't the problem, it's how creepy men are being about it. Stellar Blade reignites Gamergate discourse, and of course, the reviews. Oh my lord, some of them knocking 30 to 40 points off of the score, not for bugs or broken mechanics, but because Eve was too hot. And now here we are again. Same game, same outrage. Vice drops an article. Stellar Blade breaks Steam sales thanks to its thirsty fan base. PC Gamer throws out Gooner Game of the Year, pointing out 41% of the mods are smut. This message is not subtle. If you like this game, you're a creep. That's what they're trying to tell you. I mean, even Paul Tossi of Forbes chimed in, tweeting out that the game's success was mostly because of Asians. Like, that somehow makes it less legitimate.
That's about the most racist shit. They did the same thing with Black Myth Wukong. So it's the Chinese players. That's why it's successful. That was their excuse back then too. And it's like, how openly racist can you fucking be? I mean, honestly. Sorry, I gotta fix this. This is fucking pissing me off. It keeps moving my microphone, and it's getting on my goddamn nerves. I just set up this stupid mixer, so I'm like, this microphone's kind of worn down. I should probably switch to the other one at some point.
As if Korea, Japan, and China don't count. They said the exact same thing about Black Myth Wukong. It's not really popular, it's just big in
Exactly.
China. Oh, okay,
Exactly.
Chinese players aren't real. Is that the argument now? Now, I think this is really important to point out because of how insidious all of this is. But what this framing really does, subtly but intentionally, is tell you, the Western reader, that you don't have to care, that this game's success is distant, foreign, and not your win. That's the most important part, that it's really not that popular because it's not popular here. All it is culture war nonsense that is dressed up as consumer analysis. And that's when it hit me. This is the exact same thing that happened to Wukong. I was reading PC Gamer's Stellar Blade review, and two things jumped out at me immediately. Two red flags that made it very clear that this game wasn't being judged on what it was being judged for who it was made for. In Molly Taylor's review, she wrote, Stellar Blade's opening hours are so mired by atrocious level design that I can only assume that players are willing to plow through for the sake of seeing the protagonist Eve's bum jiggle around in a skin-tight suit for just a bit longer. Do I blame them? Not necessarily, but it's a mighty tough beginning to get through before things start getting good. And they do, eventually. Though even after 30 hours, I still couldn't shake the feeling that it was trying a little too hard to be Nier Automata on horny steroids. Isn't that essentially just Viagra? After all, its running plot is almost identical. The end of the Earth as we know it, now
True.
populated by monstrous alien life forms, a scantily clad woman fighting to reclaim the planet and save humanity alongside a drone companion, soundtracked by eerie female vocals that almost stand parallel to the horrors of the world. Now listen, I've been in these trenches before. I've been playing Shift Up's other title, Nikke, Goddess of Victory, since 2023. I am not new to this developer's particular brand of goonery. If you are new to it, however, Stellar Blade's ass shots, jiggle physics, and barely there outfits are out the wazoo. Does the world or its characters ever acknowledge that fact? Bar one Backstreet Merchant, no, it's a bizarre juxtaposition in a game that so heavily sexualizes the undeniably glamorous Eve despite being a wholly sexless personality existing in a
They hate it. They hate how simple Stellar Blade is and the fact that it's so effective. It's so simple. Big man like action. Big man like combat. Big man like sexy girls. So what does Stellar Blade do? It delivers you three things. Delivers you action, delivers you combat, and it delivers you sexy girl. What more can a man ask for? And considering that the majority of the player base for this game is going to be men, It's very good at what it does.
a sexless universe. In fact, Eve has very little personality at all. The same can be said for the supporting cast, Adam and Lily, who, despite me wanting to know more about them, never really offer up much information. This is the exact same thing that happened to Black Myth Wukong. Reviewers were calling it sexist because there weren't any women
Yeah, I was just about to say that that was the biggest critique for Black Myth Wukong. The biggest critique for Black Myth Wukong was there were no women in the fucking game. Even though if you actually played the fucking game in its entirety, there was a massive chunk of the game that was chocked full of women the whole time. What the fuck?
in the game, only for the second half of the game to introduce several major female characters, including bosses, goddesses, and other key story figures. But that never made it into the conversation
Facts.
because most critics had already decided what the game was and had probably stopped playing it before it could ever.
Yeah, they probably stopped playing it at like fucking 2 hours in, maybe. Maybe I gave them 2 hours. They probably didn't even make it past the first fucking boss.
Prove them wrong. And now it's happening again with Stellar Blade. It's the same sleight of hand. These guys do not want subtlety in games. They need everything spelled out loud. Molly Tyler writes,
That's because they're retarded. That's because I ain't afraid to say it. They're retarded. They are fucking stupid.
does the world or its characters acknowledge Eve's sexualization or her lack in personality? No, except yes. Yes, it does. Eve isn't human. She's an android engineered by an AI to be the perfect being, an artificial answer to flawed humanity. The characters are named Adam and fucking Eve. This isn't even subtle, it's biblical. They are not meant to look normal because they are.
But you're assuming that these people had the wherewithal to actually go to church or be taken to church. That's not the world that these people come from or the world that they live in. They live a godless life, and I am not religious. I will say that right off rip. I am not religious. So, but even I can easily acknowledge that Adam and Eve is like the most generic, easiest, surface level, obvious fucking depiction of a religion. It is like the like I don't know. I just don't. It's so stupid that I just don't. I don't even want to fucking think about it or try to explain it because it's just that easy. It's just that easy.
Idealized by design. This only goes over your head when you are actively looking for something to hate. And that's the
True.
trick. And I want people to understand this. This kind of negative framing is not accidental, it is a tool. Outlets will praise the visuals or mechanics, but the start of the review is criticizing Eve's design, priming the readers to see the game as juvenile or shallow. Once that lens is set,
Yep.
everything else, combat, writing, even level design, gets dragged down with it. I have seen plenty of reviews calling out the level design for being atrocious, but after playing the game myself, no, it's not Dark Souls, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly serviceable. The
Yep.
real weak points are the uneven voice acting and the clunky writing, but that's
The problem is that these people they don't play games. So they probably think that this level of combat is like Elden Ring to them because they suck that bad. They only play games that are like Assassin's Creed Valhalla where you could run in as like a level 20 into a level 250 area and still complete all the tasks because that's how easy that fucking game was.
honestly about it. Now, this is something that I didn't notice until much later, but both Stellar Blade and Black Myth Wukong are such strong enough games with clear enough appeal that the critics could not outright pan them. They could not just score them terribly. So instead, what they did was they attacked around the edges. All the review scores landed around 80 on Metacritic, but the tone never matched the score. Instead, you got condescension, moral posturing, and when challenged, we would get the exact same excuse. What are you talking about? We reviewed it positively. I have read that so many times in so many articles on these games. They use that number as a shield while the text quietly tells you that this game is something to be ashamed of or something that you shouldn't play. Now, some of this is conscious, some of it isn't, but either way, the pattern is the exact same. We're in a global culture war right now, and games like Stellar
Yep.
Blade and Black Myth Wukong have become symbols of everything that games journalists do not want to win.
And this is mainly in America because it does happen a little bit in like Europe, but Europe is also still putting out insanely good fucking games. America's got three, maybe, maybe three games. And one of them was recent and also wasn't even a new game. It was just a remaster of the old game or a remake or whatever you want to call it. Which I'm talking about Oblivion for those who need the obvious, knock on wood moment there. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a studio in California that made God of War. Good game, solid game. Um, is there anything else that came out of the U.S. that I really give a shit about? Not really. No, a lot of it is woke hive mind garbage that we're all sick of. We're all tired of.
These titles are proudly made for a male demographic, and that alone invites ridicule because the idea that men might enjoy something and that it might succeed without appealing to everyone, that is seen as a threat. And the hypocrisy here is so obvious. These critics will gush over a dating sim where you can romance inanimate objects. They'll celebrate progressive themes. They'll cheer on Baldur's Gate 3's bear scene, but a slick action game with a hot lead, that's the line that you're going to draw? The truth is, I don't think that these guys realize how much worse they are making things for themselves. Gamers have always pushed back against this kind of pearl clutching.
Yeah, they're literally just trying to put themselves out of business. Just like I said earlier in the video, it's about time that we stop giving these people any sort of attention, any sort of acknowledgement. Let their publications fail, let their companies fail, let them all go under, and we'll just stop pretending they even exist. And they can go back to Starbucks, they can go be an Uber driver, they can go fucking work at McDonald's, they can go fucking make me a goddamn sandwich at Subway. I don't give a fuck anymore. Don't give a fuck. I don't even remember the last time that I looked at a critic review. Well, I guess like I sort of looked at a critic review of the Nintendo Switch 2. Sort of, but it was just like me reacting to it and then like them basically saying what most people were saying, that it's a pretty much underwhelming piece of shit.
This has always been a counterculture space, messy, rebellious, unfiltered, and over time, they have watched it get sanitized in the name of inclusivity or in safety, not real safety or inclusivity, just the kind that looks good on a press release. Now, the irony is the people that these folks probably think that they're protecting don't even need it. They've always had games that were made for them. The issue is when
Yep.
every single game needs to be reshaped to fit one narrow ideological mold. When anything
This is exactly what happened with the fucking transgender shit. Nobody gave a fuck. Nobody cared. If you wanted to go out and you wanted to dress like a woman and act like a woman or whatever, nobody gave a shit. People started giving a shit and pushing back when you pushed that ideology on other people and tried to say that they had to think the same way you did. And then that's where the walls crumbled. That's where your fortress that you built fell apart and turned into rubble. Because if you would have just stayed in your fucking lane, lived your own life, enjoyed your life the way that you wanted to, and not tried to impose it on other people outside of that world, everybody was cool with it. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. But you told yourself you had to make the entire world see things as you do, act as you do, respond as you do. And that's just not the way the world works. This is not how it works. Do I think that people should have been harsher up front? Yes. I think that weak mindset of just letting shit go was a very bad thing for culture in America. I think once it started getting out of hand, it should have been pushed back immediately. and absolutely shut down. Now it's at a point where it infects everything. It's in our movies, it's in our shows, it's in our games, it's in our music. All of it has been rotted away from the inside because we let these worms fucking get their way in everywhere. So, um, and this is coming from somebody who has fucking bisexual friends. All right. I had a I had a bisexual roommate for over 2 years. And well, he claimed he was bisexual, but I'm gonna be honest. Buddy's gay. Buddy's gay. He says he's bisexual, and if I were to bring him on a call right now, he would still say he's bisexual. But the only thing he talks about is penis. So, uh, I'm gonna be honest. He's gay. But enough with the memes. But at the end of the day, I've never I've never seen my friend so fucking sad to even be close to people who are just like he is, right? He is so far removed from this pride woke mindset, this woke weird bullshit that he feels completely alone in a world where he should be surrounded by people who understand him and who he is. So I find it very fucking annoying when I see any of this type of shit preached outside of the box it was meant to stay in, like it's the new gospel. Like, shut the fuck up. It's the same thing with religion. Go to church, have your fun in church, live it in your own private life, in your home, in your car, whatever. Private spaces for you. Don't shove that shit down my throat when I'm at the gas station just trying to get a fucking bevy. Like, shut the fuck up. Stop it. Just stop. Preach that shit, for the people who give a shit in your personal life, in your private life. All right, the shit's annoying. If you want to go out and you want to fucking, you got a Jesus shirt on or whatever, that's cool. That's cool. That's your personal life. That's your personal T-shirt. You're a Jesus person. Glad you're proud of that, and I'm cool with it. Until you come up to me and you start trying to preach the good Lord to me when I'm at the mall, just trying to fucking get a new pair of shoes. That shit, nothing pisses me off more than that. But you know, this is where we're at. This is only really a problem in America. Everywhere else, I mean, I just don't get it. Like, y'all already have your games. They're shit games. To be fair, they are shit. So I don't blame you for wanting a better game. But this is a better game. Whether you like it or not, this is a better game. You don't like it, you go back and play fucking Dragon Age Veilguard, you pussy.
Doesn't fit, it's just going to get quietly shamed out of existence. I mean, Stellar Blade is a mature rated game, obviously designed for men.
Yup.
That is okay. Though, to be honest with you guys, I have seen way more women adding me on Twitter ever since I started talking about the game on there.
He said, way more women added me on Twitter, bro.
Most of its community is ran by women, but not every franchise needs to be for everyone. Not every game needs to be focus tested into slop. Some games need to be specific. Some things are allowed to be made for somebody else. Now, sure, part
Yep.
of this is about money, at least on the developer side. Broader appeal does mean bigger numbers, but for the media, most of these critics and the people on the sidelines, it's not about sales, it's about control. It's about reshaping the medium to match how they think and what they think other people should value, how they think that other people should behave. It's less about what the game does and more about who it does it for. Because at the end of the day, Stellar Blade didn't really commit any sort of moral offense. It just refused to
Right.
apologize who it was made for. Now, instead of live and let
Yep.
live, what ends up happening is they want to force their way through every single franchise and every single game that's out there. And I've said this a million times. My haters will completely disagree. They'll likely make a video saying that I'm a liar about it. But much of this comes down to target audiences. It's not like
Yep.
inclusive themes or diverse themes can't.
If 90% of your audience is into gooner action combat games, why the fuck would you make some turn-based trans My Little Pony game and try to sell it to that audience? Why would you go for what the 20% are going to play and try to shove it down the throats of the 80% who are not interested? Just sounds like a retard making retarded business moves to me. If I see that as an investor, as a developer, I'm saying I'm making this type of game. I'm making that goonery action combat game that 80% of that audience is going to play because that's what's going to sell. That's what's going to make money.
Can't exist in games. It's just they can't exist in every single game because not every single game is made for everyone. A lot of this just comes down to target audiences. But that's not enough for them. So what ends up happening is that they see something that conflicts with their worldview,
It's never enough.
and while they can't outright condemn it because it's too good to condemn, they use subtlety. They use subtext to be able to do so. So they gently nudge you in the direction of not wanting to play the game, and they gently nudge the developer in the direction of not making games like that. I had a girlfriend once, crazy, I know, but she had a guy friend, completely platonic. Believe me, this dude didn't have a shot. But after they would hang out, every time I would see her, she would be on me about something, always. And one time she came by and she had said something like, "You never let me do what I want to do." Scouts on her, I'd never stopped this girl from doing a single thing because her doing something else meant that I was playing video games. And that was definitely not something I was going to be trying to stop. But when that happened, it clicked. And I realized it was him. She was gossiping, she was friend zoning, and he was very subtly nudging her in the direction of being more angry about thinking that.
So this is exactly this is exactly what even their female friends do. So you got to be fucking careful. All right, when you're out here, you're looking at this girl, right? You need to assess a couple things: who her friends are, who her closest friend is, and how much does she confide in those friends, right? If she's fairly distant with someone who she considers her best friend, you're pretty okay. That means she's probably fairly logical. She sees the flaws that her friend has. She knows, I don't want to live that way. That's her thing. She has somewhat of an objective mindset towards that. You're good there. Okay. If they're super close, she confides heavily in them, and you see her friend has an absolute travesty of a life. Fucking cars broken down. Uh, Her last fucking boyfriend beat the shit out of her. She has poor taste in tattoos or something. Um, she goes out and she fucking drinks every night, gets absolutely shit faced. If that's her best friend and she confides in her, you also got to look at it from your perspective as that girl is also going to try to give your girlfriend advice. When that happens, you have to know how to navigate the fact that one, you have to handle the situation delicately because it is her best friend, and trying to turn those two against each other is never going to work out. Two, you have to make her see your point of view without her feeling like she's betraying her best friend. So that's pretty much like my main advice for people when it comes to just overall advice. This has nothing to do with the whole best friend thing or anything like that. Is never take advice from anyone who is not in a position that you want to see yourself in, right? Why the fuck would you take advice from a single friend who has had three bad toxic relationships back to back that ended up, let's say two of them were fucking 2 week long, 2 month long, and then the final one was like a year long, but it was a very quick engagement and then breakup, right? Why would you listen to that person rather than the other person for they've been together 10 plus years, they've been married, they have kids, they have a nice life. Who would you rather listen to when it comes to relationship, dating, or marriage advice? Obviously, the ones who have their shit together. Why the fuck would I listen to the travesty over there when I could listen to the person who is in the place that I want to be in someday? That's the same way of like making money. You want to be rich? Why the fuck? Why the fuck are you listening to your friend who's got 39 cents in their fucking bank account when you could be fucking listening to your boss who comes into work in a fucking Mercedes, who's got fucking 20K in the bank, you know? Who the fuck are you going to listen to? I'm listening to the boss. Bro's making money. Bro shows it. Bro's got savings. You think I'm going to listen to my fucking friend? Hell no. He's broke as fuck. He's just as broke as me. Why the hell would I listen to him? You see what I'm saying? You you have to look upwards when you're looking outwards.
There's other things that are going on, making her believe that there's something else that was going
Yes.
on. And I brought it up.
It's so insanely fucking toxic.
I said, this isn't real. This is what's happening. And she was pissed at me for saying that. And I told her that if we broke up, he would confess to her. She got even more angry. She broke up with me. 2 days later, he shows up at her door with flowers and a confession. I got an apology. The same thing is
Yep.
happening with these reviews because it's the negative framing and it's also the conscious and subconscious part that's happening. The conscious part is I don't like the guy because she's with that guy, right? So like I don't like this game because these players like this game. And the other part of it is that they don't really know anything about them or the relationship. So that's more of the subconscious part of it. And I guarantee that some of these writers do truly believe, well, I reviewed the game positively. No, you didn't. You saw that Asmongold liked the game. You saw that some anti-woke folks over on Twitter were raving about it. And subconsciously, you did not want that game to be good. You did
Yep.
not want them to get a win. You wanted it to be bad or mediocre. And because of that, you were predisposed to not like that game. And that came through in your
It's subjectivity, man. Subjectivity.
reviews. That happens. And we've seen that happen quite a lot. Now, one thing that I will say, and this is something that I think we all can agree on, is that Eve is hot as hell. Like
Facts.
distractingly so, to the point where I don't even really know what I'm supposed to be focused on. But that pivots to a touchy topic, which is what this game's success proves. And that's that really attractive characters and solid game design make one hell of a combination.
Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077. Both games full of attractive characters, both guys and girls. I mean, for fuck's sake, dude. For fuck's sake. Like it's so it couldn't be more obvious. And oh, by the way, both those games have woke elements in them, but they're done tastefully. You want to talk about games made for almost everybody? Those would be your two best examples. But guess what? The overall theme of the game still leans heavily toward that 80%. It just has a little bit of that 20% of content sprinkled in there. And that's why those two games aren't necessarily dogged on ever, because they do truly appeal to that 100%. And they're both massively successful. Even with Cyberpunk 2077's failure of a launch, it was massively successful.
I went into Stellar Blade with incredibly low expectations, not just because of what I read, but also because I had already been burned. Because right before playing it, I tried the First Ascendant, a painfully shallow experience that
Bro, the first Descendant is just the modern version of Anthem. Like it had promise. It had so much promise, and it just didn't deliver fucking shit.
Left me convinced that these stylized, hyper attractive female character designs were just a cheap marketing trick. It felt like the developers thought that all they needed was hot girls on the screen and the rest would be taken care of by itself. No soul, no design.
They would have been right if the game was good. If the microtransactions weren't the sole fucking lifeblood of the game. If when you're in the open field and you're doing different tasks and missions, you actually collected cool fucking shit to keep you in the game. It's actually insane that the game that I've been playing recently, uh, which is the Pretty Derby, um, that game based off of I don't know what came first. I don't know if the game came first or if the anime came first, but it's essentially a gotcha game about horse girls, and it's literally like horse racing, but they're anime girls that are horse girls. In that game, I would say feels better and plays better than the first Descendant, which y'all can call it a hot take if you want, but overseas it has over 1 million downloads already. That's already more success than First Descendant has ever had at its peak.
Vision, just pretty faces wrapped up in a lifeless game. So I assumed that Stellar Blade would be the exact same thing, and I was wrong, completely wrong, because I've played Stellar Blade for quite a while now, and part of the reason why I'm making this video right now is because I think this game was radically mischaracterized. Critics tried to paint it as a budget Nier Automata, a Timu clone with jiggle physics, but what I actually saw was something completely different, a sincere, imperfect love letter to Yoko Taro's masterpiece. And I do not invoke the name of that game lightly. Nier Automata is one of the most emotionally and structurally complete games that I have ever played. Its storytelling, its music, its pacing, the way that everything ties together. Very few games even come close to what Nier has accomplished. And to be clear, Stellar Blade does not reach those heights. But
That is one thing I will give Sony credit for is they are really good at getting these studios to deliver these overall complete games.
it tries. And that's what I find so fascinating. Most games would never even attempt that kind of ambition, but Shift Up somehow did on their very first AAA game. And honestly, a lot of what's going on here actually works. The world design is gorgeous. It's drenched in this quiet sense of despair. You explore cities that are slowly being reclaimed by nature, walking past towers and scattered remnants of what clearly used to be a thriving civilization. The notes you find, the little scraps of history, the fragments of loss, it all builds to something eerily beautiful. The traversal can be a little bit janky at times, but the environments feel distinct and fully realized. It's all rendered with a level of visual polish that most veteran studios cannot achieve. Some of the reviewers were trying to criticize the game's soundtrack for trying to copy off of Nier, but this soundtrack goes hard and it is all on its own. One minute you have these dreamy ambient tracks, the next it's this melodic K-pop, and then suddenly you're in a boss fight with metalcore blast beats that are pushing you into hyper-focused mode where you're just going off on a boss. And then there's the combat. My God, the combat. One-on-one, it's some of the most satisfying gameplay that I've had all year. It can be a little bit awkward in group fights since there's not really a lot of like enemy clustering mechanics. I wish that when you would swing or do AoEs, it would group enemies and then you'd be able to use your AoE attacks the way you would actually want to. But in single target encounters, it just all clicks together. The moveset just keeps expanding as you continue to play. You start with basic attacks, then you get dash counters, parry chains, repulsion dodges, and all kinds of these different skill-specific combo finishers. You've got beta attacks for breaking shields, launching enemies, or dishing out AoE damage. You can weave between these heavy and light string attacks to create all these different combos depending on your timing. And yeah, it even has its own full-blown devil trigger mode where Eve basically goes god mode for a few seconds and just shreds everything on the screen. From where I'm standing, Stellar Blade isn't just one thing. It just feels like somebody that really liked video games blending all of their favorite games together. It pulls in the challenge and structure from Dark Souls and Elden Ring, the fast paced combat and style of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, and the atmosphere, the music, and emotional core of a game that he clearly worshipped, which was Nier Automata. Shift Up doesn't nail everything, well, except for Eve's curves. They definitely got that part right. But what they do land is ambition. It actually reminds me of the time where I used to play in a metalcore band, and we opened once for this regional act that was called Ice Nine Kills. And I remember thinking to myself, damn, these guys are legit. I can't wait to see what they do next. And then a few years later, they ended up breaking the Billboard Top 200.
You know what I think they could make? I think they could. I think they, if they wanted to, and they got the IP for it, I think they could kill a new prototype game. Oh, I haven't played prototype in a minute, and I would be nothing but happy if they could somehow make a prototype game.
And that's what this feels like to me because the fact that this is Shift Up's first AAA game is just wild to me. It runs beautifully on PC, it looks incredible, plays smooth, and it isn't filled with microtransactions or recycled mechanics. And it's not just technically solid, this game has identity. They made the game that they wanted to make for the audience that they wanted to reach. No compromise, no diluted vision, just style, skill, and a clarity of purpose. That's why it all
Facts.
worked. That's why this game has been so successful, and that's why they deserve every bit of their success. But that success is also why Backlash exists, because when I look at how Stellar Blade has been received and how often games that target male audiences get framed in negativity, it's not hard to see what's happening. Over the years, games have been quietly sorted into categories. You've got male games, which are shooters, military sims, and sports titles, and then everything else is supposed to be made for everyone. And the kind of stuff that sits in the middle, the kind of stuff that used to sit in the middle, the action games with the striking stylized characters and unapologetically masculine energy, most of that stuff has either been toned down or phased out entirely. We've seen this slow erosion of attractive characters under the guise of modern sensibilities. Even Japanese developers have started to shift their designs to avoid criticism. Remember Palworld CEO saying they added a character creator because Westerners like making ugly characters. That wasn't a joke, it was a business move. These guys have been talking about this. We've seen other studios admit that they have removed or redesigned female characters out of the fear that they're going to be labeled as sexist or exclusionary. And look, I'm not trying to wade into any culture war here. I am not trying to argue about morality or politics, but the simple truth is products succeed when they accurately serve their audience. That's it. You cannot make a gritty sci-fi action game with Souls-like difficulty and Devil May Cry combat for a general audience. You are by definition targeting a niche, and that niche is overwhelmingly male. The only real difference that I'm
Yeah.
seeing between Eastern and West
It's not even a niche, it's the majority. And it's always going to be the majority, whether they like it or not, whether they want to change it or not. It is always going to be the majority. Like I said earlier, why the fuck would you make a game for the 20% expecting 80% of the sales? It's just not going to happen.
Western studios right now is that Eastern studios
It's not even 20% either. It's like 5%. Maybe 5%.
are not afraid to own that. They are not embarrassed to make games for dudes. And when that kind of game has been missing
Facts.
from the market, when their only other options are gotcha games or mobile cash grabs, it's
Yep.
no surprise that something like Stellar Blade lands as hard as it does. Of course, it found an audience. Of course, that audience loves it because the game knew exactly who it was for and it didn't flinch. The
Yep.
one thing that I think people really need to understand is that all games have a right to exist, but they all don't have a right to success.
Right.
Games only succeed when they're being made.
Especially nowadays in the market that we're in with like how tight people are budget wise. Because like you got to think of like how many subscriptions are everybody paying right now? Like money is spread so thin nowadays that you basically, and plus the games are getting more expensive. I didn't even fucking think about that. But with these things in common, you're probably gonna buy one game. You're probably gonna comfortably buy one game. What are you gonna fucking buy? Dragon Age Veilguard or are you gonna buy fucking God of War or Ghost of Tsushima? I ain't buying fucking Veilguard for the same price. Fuck no. Fuck no, dude.
made for a real audience, an audience that actually exists, an audience that's actually going to be interested in that game. Take Forspoken as an example. For all of its flaws, it was still a decent action game. It had a cool premise, a gorgeous world, incredible traversal, and fun combat. But the problem was the audience of players of that kind of game is overwhelmingly male. And when you build your story around a lead character who's bitter, cynical, and nearly impossible to root for, when the tone and the writing feels like it's being made for a demographic that barely even plays video games, you're not being bold, you're being delusional. You can make a game like that, but you have to be honest about the scope, the budget, and the actual reach that it can have. And there is nothing, and I mean nothing, wrong with making a game for dudes. I love emotionally complex games, a diverse cast of characters, powerful writing, but deep down, I'm genetically wired, no, compelled to play the game with the hot girl, with the nasty ass monsters, with the big sword and the giant explosions. I like
Facts.
things that look fun and look fun to hit. And so do a lot of people.
Why do you think Doom was so successful for so long? Granted, this last one lost a lot of steam, but up until that point, Doom as a franchise solely existed as the Doom Slayer, killing demons the most brutal, fun, fast-paced way as possible. That entire franchise is simple to its core. And you want to know what happens when you go too complex with things and you try to water it down, you get Gears of War. That's what you get.
What we're seeing right now with a lot of these recent Eastern releases is the pendulum swinging back. It's a return to cultural authenticity. When Yoko Taro comes
Yep.
forward and says that he made 2B sexy because I really just like girls, people respect that. When Stellar Blade's director says that I challenge modders to see what they can do, or that adult mods shouldn't be banned for any reason whatsoever, people
Yep.
listen, not because it's provocative, but because it's honest. No deflection, no PR shield, no pearl clutching, just saying what everybody already knows. Guys like hot girls, girls like hot girls. We like things that look good, and there's no shame in that. I think that it's really easy to assume that games like Stellar Blade, Nier, Bayonetta, and more are just tapping into baser instincts. Like that alone is the formula. But what people are actually responding to here is the clarity. It's the creative confidence, the refusal to water things down or pretend like you're aiming for something that you're not. That honesty resonates, not because it's bold, but because it feels rare in a space that has become so obsessed with risk management and mass appeal. But even with that authenticity, intention only gets you so far, because the truth is, it's not enough. And Stellar Blade proves that, and that's what makes this game even more important. Hot characters alone do not make a game work. Just look at the first Descendant, a game that had the looks,
Yep.
but none of the substance. It's lost over 98% of its player base because
The first Descendant was so. See, it was so weak. It was so like surface level. Like it has this massive story that's like an inch deep that nobody gave a shit about. They just wanted to run around and kill cool shit and get rewarded for killing cool shit. But the problem is the rewards for killing the cool shit, they weren't cool. They weren't cool at all. Um, I would even argue that the first Descendant is a worse game than most gotcha games. Because at least most gotcha games that you get into somewhat give you cool shit.
they never prioritized gameplay. The devs thought that they could just coast with surface level appeal, but all they delivered was a shallow, aggressively monetized mess. And their last
Yep.
biggest update that they did, well, they added jiggle physics. And I'm sure the dozen players that are left playing the game appreciated it, but it doesn't fix a hollow game. Gameplay and quality always come first. And that's what I find really frustrating when I see a game like Stellar Blade framed the way that it was. So many outlets and critics, even players that were fixated on how characters were portrayed in the game, suffocating the conversation that we should have had. This was Shift Up's first shot at a AAA title, and they crushed it. No, it's not perfect. No, it wasn't made for everyone, but it was a damn good game. It knew exactly who it was made for, and it delivered. That is worth celebrating. that is worth respecting. And frankly, it's a lesson that a lot of studios could learn from. I think the desire to see games like Stellar Blade fail comes from the fallacy that games are a 50-50 split, regardless of genre, between male and female. And it's really just not the case. And they
Yep.
think that if games like this succeed, well, then these companies are going to be more inclined to make games like those. And then it also goes to prove that the vast majority of things that people say online don't actually even matter. And when they are offline, they're just going to go buy the things that they want regardless. And if there's more money in games like that, well, then there's less money in games like Dragon Age the Veilguard. And
Yep.
that doesn't necessarily sit right with a lot of people's worldview. I can't imagine how hostile of an environment it has to be a
I honestly think that Dragon Age the Veilguard was a massive restarter for getting people to want to, because people wanted Dragon Age the Veilguard to end up like a Cyberpunk 2077. They wanted it to end up like a Baldur's Gate 3, where it continued to push those thematic elements, those social elements, those action elements to the next level, but do it in a tasteful way, like they always have. Um, but they didn't. They made it their whole identity, and it truly did leave a very large disdain on people who had enjoyed that franchise.
game developer that's trying to make a game or trying to make games that are going to please everybody and not offend anybody. Actually, I take that back. I know exactly how that is. I'll be honest. When I first started making YouTube videos a couple years ago now, I guess it's actually 2 years now, I tried to play both sides. If it was a game that I hated, I would try to talk about the good side. If it was a game that I liked, I try to talk about the, bad side. If it was a culture issue or something like that, I would try to do my best to just stay between it. But the funny thing is, that never works. And that's just not what
Nope.
people want because it's not you and it's not real. So
Yeah, there's no authenticity to it. You can't walk the fence. It's just not how it works.
eventually I just got to the point where I said, screw it. I'm not taking any sides. I'm just going to say what my opinion is. Take it or leave it. If you don't like it, it is what it is. Come to find
Facts.
out, lo and behold, people like that content a heck of a lot more.
Yep.
Funny enough, all the labels that people used to throw on me when I was making those super nice videos, yeah, they're all still here. They're still the same. Doesn't matter what you do. People are going to do that regardless. It's like I said before, in the eyes of the players, when they see a game like Stellar Blade, it's counterculture. It is so refreshingly blunt. This is an old term, and you don't really hear this very often anymore, but it's a pushback against political correctness. You can't do that. You can't say that. You can't make that. And finally, somebody standing up to say, yeah, but I like it. I don't think that
True.
these guys realize that they've essentially just become like politicians are with like GTA, where they just assume that, oh, because they play these games, they're going to commit crimes. Now they're saying, well, if they play games like this,
Right.
they're going.
I remember that, dude. That was such a huge like campaign thing. There's like, oh, these violent depictions are making people violent. No, those people were violent to begin with. They actually probably got some of that violence out in GTA. And then you took GTA from them thinking it was the cause, but you were actually the cause because you took away the one way that they were getting rid of those feelings and thoughts. It's kind of nuts.
going to objectify women. I think it's time to stop assuming people's intentions or actions based off of the media that they consume,
Yep.
regardless of whatever they create, play, or if they're just enjoying a video game. Stop worrying about it. Maybe we just need to flip it back on these guys. Tell them that the game wasn't made for them. Lord
Facts.
knows it was definitely made for me. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, like.
W video legendary drops. Go to his channel. Give him a sub. Give him a like. Fantastic video. I love all his videos that he does. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Go support his channel. Let's get him up to 1 million, man. He deserves it. He deserves it. So that's gonna be it for me as well. As you guys can see in the watch later over there, I have a lot to do today. So we're moving on to the next one. Peace.